Okay, this is my presentation, and I'm gonna start the timer. Um, what? Okay. So this is my presentation. This is a picture of me for context. Every slide needs a picture. And Plato's Apology. These are pictures of Socrates. For the author's philosophical problem and solution, for the problem I have, you are wrong if you believe that by killing people, you will prevent anyone from reproaching you for not living in the right way. Prepare oneself to be as good as possible. Plato's Apology, page 34. Along with addressing false accusations, Socrates confronts moral issues and several problems in the perspective of the society around him. He explains that many are preoccupied with upholding the current system and what are held as truths, vindicating him for his questioning, rather than upholding moral standards for themselves and seeking wisdom. In the quote above, Socrates supports this by indicating that people want to kill him and attempt to escape from people like him, disrupting the status quo, and that they cannot escape from such criticisms, and instead should live honestly and put forth their best efforts to live virtuously. For the solution, I do know, however, that it is wicked and shameful to do wrong. Plato's Apology, page 29. Socrates discusses the value in pursuing knowledge and a virtuous life while doing what one can to be a good person and stay humbled throughout. Socrates explains throughout his defense that, while he does not claim to be wise or know everything, he recognizes the importance of making efforts to gain wisdom through questioning, having discussions, and pursuing what is just. You are wrong, sir, if you think that a man who is any good at all should take into account the risk of life or death. He should look to this only in his actions. Plato's Apology, page 29. He details the importance of adhering to such values and saying that even in the face of death, a good man will not stray from morality and being good. Socrates follows through with this belief in clinging to his values and continuing to speak his truth despite knowing he will be sentenced to death by doing so. Despite knowing he could evade death by shamefully admitting guilt and promising to live a quiet life as the members of the court want him to, he chooses instead to do the opposite, supporting his philosophy while encouraging others to do the same. For the key quote and significance, on the other hand, if I say that it is the greatest good for a man to discuss virtue every day and those other things about which you hear me conversing and testing myself and others, for the unexamined life is not worth living for man, you will believe me even less. Plato's Apology, page 33. This quote encapsulates Socrates' main philosophical argument and his strong belief in using questioning and examining for the pursuit of becoming a better person. He stresses the significance of what he does and how he believes it is the right way to live. To live a moral and fulfilling life, one must always seek to learn and grow while also staying humble and admitting ignorance. As stated by the author of the article cited below in reference to this quote, we find here Socrates' insistence that we are all called to reflect upon what we believe, account for what we know and do not know, and generally speaking, to seek out, live in accordance with, and defend those views that make for a well-lived and meaningful life. For the analogies and examples of the philosophical argument, he asked if any man was wiser than I, and the Pythian replied that no one was wiser. Plato's Apology, page 26. The aforementioned quote represents a vital portion of Socrates' defense, where he mentions visiting the Delphic oracle. As mentioned by Wilburn, Socrates' philosophy activity is traceable to the Delphic oracle. This oracle is where everyone would go to find answers from the god Apollo. Socrates' interpretation of the answer given by the oracle represents an example of his philosophical argument about the importance of seeking wisdom, pursuing knowledge through questioning, and not overestimating one's knowledge. In an analogy, to continue with the example, I am likely to be wiser than he to this small extent that I do not think I know what I do not know. Plato's Apology, page 27. As written by Klempner, by questioning others who had a reputation for wisdom, he came to see that he was wiser than they, because unlike them, he did not claim to know what he did not know. Socrates concludes that the meaning of the oracle's words is that his wisdom comes from knowing he knows nothing. His consensus supports his claims that one must question what is around him and seek to gain knowledge while remaining humble and not claiming to be wise when one is not. For an analogy, I was attached to the city by the god, though it seems a ridiculous thing to say, as upon a great noble horse, which was somewhat sluggish because of its size and needed to be stirred up by a kind of gadfly. Plato's Apology, page 30. As outlined by the author of Socrates as the gadfly of the state, 4th CBC, Socrates believed that he had been sent by the gods to act as a gadfly to the Athenian state. He saw the state as a great and noble steed, which had to be reminded of its proper duties. This analogy highlights Socrates' belief in the idea that it is his moral duty, as given to him by the gods, to engage in the conversations and behavior that he does, and that he must better himself and society by these means. Through this analogy, he defines his and the philosopher's purpose as one that involves inquiring and analyzing, and that this is the proper way to live. For the most persuasive philosophical argument, no one knows whether death may not be the greatest of all blessings for man, yet men fear it as if they knew that it is the greatest of evils. And surely it is the most blameworthy ignorance to believe that one knows what one does not know. Plato's Apology, page 29. The argument that persuaded and appealed to me the most is Socrates' notion that nobody knows what lies in and after death, and that people should not believe what they think they know about death because they do not know. From that idea, it can be deduced that one should not cling on to their ideas and fears of death because they come from a fear of unknown. I found this argument to be interesting and persuasive, as I and most people have experienced a lot of difficulties in life due to this fear, and Socrates' perspective allowed me to recognize where this fear is not only unnecessary as it causes stress with no resolution, but also where it is baseless and founded on assumption. The least persuasive. I shall not let him go at once or leave him, but shall question him, examine him, and test him. And if I do not think he has attained the goodness that he says he has, I shall reproach him because he attaches little importance to the most important things and greater importance to inferior things. Plato's Apology, page 29 and 30. Socrates' least persuasive philosophical argument for me is his belief in the responsibility of reproaching and questioning others. This is unconvincing for me due to Socrates' contradiction with his statement that he does not claim to be wise. If he says he doesn't claim to know anything, then he cannot know for certain what are important or inferior things. At the very least, Socrates, or anyone for that matter, shouldn't have the authority to decide whether someone is engaged with something inferior. No less should they have the obligation to reproach them on it. For whether I disagree or agree with the author's main argument, what I say is the greatest benefit by trying to persuade him not to care for any of his belongings before caring that he himself should be as good and as wise as possible, not to care for the city's possessions more than for the city itself, and to care for other things in the same way. What do I deserve for being such a man? Some good gentlemen of the jury. Plato's Apology, page 32. I agree with Socrates' overarching argument/philosophy. Socrates' emphasis on the importance of seeking knowledge is something that I resonate with, as I believe our purpose as humans on earth is to gain knowledge and experience. I find the pursuit of wisdom and knowledge to be tied to our purpose and our nature, similarly to how Socrates describes the nature of a philosopher and how he describes an unexamined life not being worth living. I believe we enter this planet as beings teeming with curiosity and a desire to learn, grow, and understand the world around us, and that this is the way we are meant to live our lives. We are meant to hold on to this yearning for knowledge and search for it through any means, such as the Socratic method of questioning, and to not stray from this pursuit, much like how Socrates claims he will continue as he has been if he is acquitted, even if he is acquitted. I also agree with Socrates' sentiment in the aforementioned quote that one should be concerned with one's character and morality above possessions and external matters. Power, status, societal recognition, material possessions, and other such unstable things are not constant and are separate from oneself. And in identifying with them, one is closely bound to the ego and further from love for self and others. For one that does attach their sense of self to these ideas, if they lose that thing they connect to their idea of themselves, that person and their worth do not exist. Instead, one can find purpose and stability within themselves, no matter the external conditions, if they have cultivated a sense of self based on good character and morality. Socrates also underlines the value in bettering oneself and always trying to be a good person. I agree with this and also believe that these two values come hand in hand. I believe that when one works on themselves, heals their wounds, and always strives for self-improvement, that person becomes a beacon of light for others and betters others and the world around them just by their nature and presence. Likewise, being a good person and helping others in turn betters oneself. This is my works cited, and I hope you can enjoy that. That's it. 11 minutes. Okay. Thank you so much for watching that, and have a good whenever you're grading this. Okay, I got it.
Oh wait, are you still recording?
No, I'm free.
Oh,
Wait. What does it mean? I don't know this one. What is that?
Alice's professor, if you heard me explode.